And the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were Godless, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So of course these things have been around. Now they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so
what I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So they spread this thing out, and this has got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So of course these things have been around. Now they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be going over what an apologist claims that you should say to anybody that says Jesus is a myth, or, mythicists, as everybody would refer to this demographic, which I am a mythicist. So, we're going to be evaluating what this person's advice is to his fellow Christian apologists out there, as far as what should you say to somebody that doesn't believe that Jesus existed as a historical figure. This should be some kind of piece of evidence or something that would definitely prove them wrong. That's why I'm very interested in this. This is also something that was picked by the skeptic. So I'm excited that it made it to the finals to where I could make the deciding vote there. But shit, my audio's low again. Fuck. Okay. Let me just fix this real quick. All right, that should have fixed it. Hopefully, I don't have to do that
know
again.
if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for believing in Jesus. Daniel M says, David says, good night. My Jeep got repossessed. Oh, fuck. That sucks, bud. So sorry about that, Daniel, but I hope that David does have a good night. Anyways, if you want to fuck around and find out what is the one thing, the one piece of evidence that you can bring up to a mythicist to totally silence them, then please stay tuned. What's up, heathens? So tonight we are going to be reviewing a video that is supposed to totally shut Mythicists down, or supposed to be the one thing that you're supposed to mention to Mythicists. So definitely pay attention tonight, because this is probably going to be some kind of groundbreaking like information. I mean, I can only imagine that if this is the one thing that you should say to Mythicists, it's definitely going to shut us down for good. So we might have to shut all this shit down, take this shirt off, to take my Crestus app off of any app stores that it may still be up on. We got a little bit of problem with the Google store right now. There's some issues there, but anyways, so we're going to have to probably take all this shit down, because he's got the definitive thing that's going to totally shut me the fucketh up. But before we get to the video tonight, we do have somewhat of a full slate. We are going to be going over some news, and it's going to be kind of off the cuff, because I didn't have time to write up my normal thing so that I could read it off. I just know every fucking thing in the news lately, because I've been glued to it, because it's, you know, kind of right in front of me. So we're going to be discussing that. And then we do have some, comments. But I'm rebranding that section a little bit, because I'm not able to find a lot of like shitty ass stuff, shitty ass science kind of thing for Bro Cephas to explain. I thought that it would be fun to have a fuck around and find out section, and where we just sort of take a cathartic moment and read about all of the Trump supporters that are fucking around and finding out and getting hurt by their vote. Maybe some people don't think this is productive, but it makes me feel better. So we're going to do that. And Bro Cephas is going to be the one interacting with him, because as we all know, Bro Cephas does not like Trump, and he did not vote for Trump, which technically is a very, very truthful statement right there. So we are going to have Bro Cephas do a fuck around and find out section, and then we're going to be getting into the response video. So, if you want to, please become a Skeptic Mafia member. If you are a Skeptic Mafia member at the Mafioso level, you get to pick the video that we review on Friday nights. Typically, I put them up either on Wednesdays or Thursdays for you guys to choose. This was a little late because of all the craziness that was going on this week, but you do get to choose if you're part of the Skeptic Mafia. So if you want to have your hand in, a little bit of influence in how the channels run and what kind of videos we are going to be responding to, definitely consider joining the Skeptic Mafia. We're also trying to get to a good position where we can start doing the podcasts again. It's been really turbulent this beginning of the year, so we're still trying to figure that out. Please bear with us as we get back on track with those, but those are also part of the Skeptic Mafia package, specifically the Skeptic Mafia podcast, where we mostly discuss like political shit. So, definitely join up if you would like access to all of the past episodes of it, which we have like an entire, I guess you could call, season of the Skeptic Mafia podcast when we were going through COVID and all of the crazy religious shit that was going on in the community at that point. So that's kind of an interesting thing to go into. But all right, other than that, you can do a super chat. That would really help us keep the lights on here at Godless Engineer, keep the Adobe license paid and all that kind of good shit. If you want to have your voice added to the stream, or your opinions added, or if you just want to see me interact with your particular statement about whatever we're talking about, definitely consider sending in a super chat, and I will interact with it nearly immediately, depending on the context and what you send it. So with all of that kind of good shit out of the way, we are going to be getting into the news section, which, if you don't know, is also kind of a mixed bag. Fuck around and find out, Christian nationalist news, and then atheist news. So without further ado, all right, y'all ready to learn some new shit today? Today I learned some shit that I wish I didn't learn. That banjolele is always going to be just top tier for me. Yep, best investment ever. Okay, all right. So first up on the news items today, Gaza. If you guys don't know, Gaza was a pretty big voting point for a lot of people during the last election. A lot of people
I don't know if y'all know this, but when you get to heaven, your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Limited Light says, I'll add my voice by singing, Today I Learned. I can't do the metal voice. Limited Light has that. But what I will say is that I can't wait to get Limited Light's metal version of it integrated once or twice into the stream. That would be pretty awesome to hear. So anyways, Gaza's future. This has been a rather contentious point, and it's got a rather complicated background here that I kind of wanted to spend some time to explain. So basically, in the leading up to the election and surrounding the election, you had a lot of people where Gaza and the Biden administration's handling of Gaza specifically was very much a voting point. Like a single, there were a lot of single issue voters who focused on their response to Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, and they were very dissuaded from voting for Biden, and they also were either dissuaded from voting from Trump, or they thought that Trump was going to make things better. So that is, leading up to the election, of course, Donald Trump won, sadly enough, and then after the election, coming up on inauguration and everything like that, when Trump was inaugurated, Biden, just previously to that, had been furiously negotiating a ceasefire as well as a two-state solution. And so because of that, because he was arguing for those things, hopefully there was going to be some kind of resolution, but there wasn't. Trump gets inaugurated, and then recently it came out, for whatever fucking reason, I don't know why, but recently it came out that Donald Trump is apparently going to annex the Gaza Strip. He's going to annex the Gaza Strip, and it's going to become American territory, right? And he's going to start developing. He's going to develop on the Gaza Strip. Everybody's kind of curious as to what in the fuck is going on. We don't know. We don't have any kind of idea why he would do this.
You don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just got to suck my dick.
Limited Light says I could try singing it in Laura Trump style. Yes. I mean, if you got the chops for it, Limited Light, send it, record it, send it to me. I will definitely make that a button here on my stream deck. So definitely do that if you can. I would love to hear that. But in any case, so Donald Trump wants to annex Gaza and develop it for rich assholes like himself, especially those rich assholes that definitely want to give him more money or buy his presidency or some kind of fucking thing like that. I don't know. Anyways, so Donald Trump announces this, right? And we'll get into what he actually said in Brosevis' section. But he announces this. And then his people try to walk it back, and they're like, no, we're not gonna, use any kind of American resources or anything like that to like rebuild Gaza or anything or take over Gaza. Like, we're America first, fuck yeah, kind of administration. So we're really just primarily focused on the homeland and everything like that. It's kind of the sense, like that's not that's obviously a paraphrase and more of like a regurgitation of the vibe that was kind of going on in the Trump administration at that point. And so Trump's administration said that. And then, as we'll see in Brosevis' fuck around and find out section, lo and behold, Trump wakes up at like 3 a.m. or some kind of shit, has to go and take a major dump on his golden fucking toilet, gets on there and starts truthing out, which is what you do on, I guess, Truth Social. He starts, but yeah, they're lies. They're not truths. He starts fucking truthing out, tweeting out, whatever in the fuck, that, nope, we're gonna fucking take over Gaza. And we're definitely gonna develop Gaza into this, what was it, the Middle East Riviera kind of shit. And like, he's tweeting all this shit out, totally going against what his administration said, totally going against what everybody was saying, and especially his White House chief of staff. when he initially said that he was going to take over Gaza and that the American people were going to take over Gaza, her face was like, the fuck are you doing, sir? This is an international issue. Maybe you should not do this. is kind of the vibe that I got from it.
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Definitely suck that dong. Jennifer Silva says a resort in Gaza has Caligula vibes. It definitely has fucking Caligula vibes. It's got some crazy fucking vibes going on about it. Like, it's definitely like out there. But in any case, that's kind of where we sit with Gaza's future. Trump, the orange asshole that he is totally hard up on us taking Gaza over, okay, and taking it over, and developing on it and developing this sort of resort or this very touristy kind of location. It's right there on the beach. I guess maybe it's got great, I don't know, beachfront. Trump is a real estate developer at heart, and he's also a criminal at heart. And so basically that's probably what's going to happen, is they're going to develop on it. Of course, his base doesn't really like this whole idea, so they've had their own kind of like reaction to it, and, you know, calling it like pointless and bullshit, and we didn't vote for this kind of stuff, but you know, you kind of did. But anyway, so that's Gaza's future. I stand strong with the Palestinian people. I think that they deserve like their land, their homes. I don't think that they deserve to be driven out. I don't think that Israel had any kind of need for the kind of retaliation that they had. Did they have the right to defend themselves? True, but they fully surpassed that particular right into genocide. And I think that they were wrong for that. They should be held accountable for that, but that's not going to happen. So I definitely voted against this. I voted for the party that was going to do a 2-state solution and a ceasefire to hopefully get some stability back in that particular area. That is not what happened. So I hate that, but that's what ended up happening. Next, protecting Christ. I don't know if y'all know this, but Christ needs protection. The all-powerful governor of the universe and major asshole in the sky that goat-seed everything into existence needs puny humans out there to defend his honor for some reason. So basically what this is about is Donald Trump signed an executive order today to investigate
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Limited Light says rough draft of Laura singing imitation emailed. Thank you so much there, Limited Light. I'm definitely gonna
Tater's gonna tate.
That's fucking right. Tater's gonna tate. Elizabeth Richardson. Caitlin Chloe's right here, and she's always my number one fan. Elizabeth Richardson says, but it was all about the price of eggs. Fuck everything else. I know, but what about the eggs? How much are the eggs? I saw this cartoon drawing that I think is very apt. Prior to the election and prior to the inauguration, Trump supporters were like, this is Biden's fault. Eggs are $3 a carton. How can you actually feasibly spend $3 a carton for fucking eggs? Or whatever in the fuck. And then later on, or in the next panel, it shows the Trump supporter with glasses on, his still fucking stupid Trump hat, and he's got a book that says Econ 1 on it. It's like, well, actually, the price of eggs is a complicated situation that can't be solved directly by the president. So, you know, that's why they're so expensive. And it was like the price of eggs is $7. That's basically what's going on here, is that they campaigned on, lower grocery prices, lower egg prices, and all this other stuff. And now that Trump's like, you know, I can't really do much about the groceries, and eggs is kind of fucked right now, so y'all are just gonna have to bite the bullet and, you know, just sort of suffer the consequences of my actions. And, inaction for the eggs, because that's because of the avian flu, and he's silenced all of the health agencies from actually alerting people about the avian flu. And so the egg crisis and the chicken crisis in general is just going to get worse and worse, and prices of eggs are going to continue to go up. Prices of chicken tendies is also going to go up, which is directly going to affect me along with the price of eggs. But, they don't really care about that now because it's all about owning the libs and fucking, you can't see it, but I'm teabagging the libs as they, cry over the dissolving United States government. That's what they care most about, is owning the fucking libs, apparently, is what they care about. So in any case, this is all getting around to Donald Trump executive order to root out anti-Christian bias or anti-Christian violations in the government, or I guess in government spending, or in some kind of government aspect. And so I put this in here because it is definitely Christian nationalism. This is placing Christianity above all other religions. The fact that he's specifically rooting out anti-Christian bias is elevating Christianity above all the other religions, and is specifically in violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. If you want to root out anti-religious bias, that is not putting one religion above all the others, and you would be investigating, everything. But the fact that you're promoting Christianity is a violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. Of course, conservatives don't want to interpret it that way. They want to interpret it as if it were a one-way mirror, or I guess maybe that's technically a two-way mirror, the thing that you have in interrogation rooms. Basically, they want to be able to prosecute people for offending Christian sensibilities, and they want to be able to offend the religious sensibilities of everybody else and non-religious sensibilities of everybody else. So this is definitely elevating Christianity above all the other religions. The orange shit given here, failed to take into account that his administration already, as far as Doge is concerned, Doge being this rampant extra governmental agency that was just poofed into somewhat of an existence by an executive order signed by Trump, not confirmed by Congress, not created by Congress. Musk was not vetted by Congress to be the head of Doge, and nobody was given proper security clearances or have a proper need to know to access fucking treasury payment systems or anything that they've had access to. None of that has actually been greenlit by anybody in a position where they could greenlight it. But Trump just pooped them into existence. Doge has actually violated this particular executive order already. So is Trump going to prosecute Elon for unnecessarily targeting Christians? Because through the USAID debacle that's been going on, which we'll get into here in a little bit, with Josephus's section here, they have unfairly targeted a Lutheran charity that seeks to help poor and disadvantaged people, and children and everything like that. They have a bunch of different things that they do. Well, Doge cut funding to that particular group because they said that group specifically was used for fraud. And so they unfairly targeted a Christian group. And it's not only that one Christian group, there's also been other Christian groups. There's also been other Christians out there that have been unfairly targeted in the private sector. So one can only wonder if Trump is actually going to prosecute his own people for violating the very thing that he is accused, he's formed this group to root out. Or is he only going to target people that he perceives to be, I guess, atheist or secular, or people that that people have told him are not real Christians? I'm just kind of curious if if that's a situation, or if he's just using this in order to impose some kind of Christian nationalist agenda, where there's one particular version of Christianity that he wants to promote above others. Well, maybe not that he wants to promote, but like maybe Russ Vought or any of the other people that are controlling him. They got shoved their hands up his asshole and they're moving his mouth. There's a lot of people that are double fisting, triple fisting, quadruple fisting Trump's asshole right now. You got Elon Musk that's up there. He's pushed his way through the Cheeto shit, and he's got his hands up there in Trump's mouth. You got Russ Vought that's doing the same thing. Just the whole of the Heritage Foundation has just got all of their arms up Trump's asshole. He's got President Donald Trump has a gaping asshole with multiple arms being shoved deep inside of it so that they can manipulate him. Don't fact check me. Basically, he's being used to push a Christian nationalist narrative and to control the Christian message so that it's only this one particular type of Christianity that's being pushed. So there you go. That's your Christian nationalist fucking dystopian bullshit news for today. And then finally, we're going to be going on to some atheist news, primarily atheist news. This one strikes really close to home for me. I feel very passionate about this story in particular, but also stories of this kind. This little girl right here is the victim in it, and I put her up here because I did not want to give the parents any kind of FaceTime whatsoever. I don't think that monsters like that should be given any kind of recognition whatsoever. They should definitely fade into non-existence into the non-existence of history. They should be forgotten. But the parents originally that killed this young girl, they've already been charged and have quote unquote served time. They didn't really serve much time. One was let out on parole, and the other one, I think, served like a few months for killing a child. And if you're curious as to why I feel very specifically tied, or at least affected by this story, is that this little girl right here is diabetic. She's got type 1 diabetes. She was insulin dependent. And so because of that, she required medicine. She required insulin. Insulin's a hormone, and it's not just something that can just start working one day. Like your pancreas doesn't just, jumpstart and start working after, you've gotten, or after it stopped working. It just doesn't just start for no reason. And so she required insulin. But sadly enough for her, she was born into a family that was controlled by religion, fundamentalist religion that thought that God would heal everybody and that deep devotion and prayer is all you needed. You didn't need medicine. You didn't need anybody to help you in that. All you needed was God. And so with that in mind, the parents proceeded to deny her insulin. Her parents, along with the people that recently were charged, which we'll get into here in a second, also created an environment that denied her the life-saving medication that she needed. And you could tell she's just a little girl, right? Like I think she was like maybe in her preteens or something. She was 12. She didn't have any control over that. She was forced into a cult like that. And this cult is not a big cult. Like I read Hemmett's article. It was a cult of like 23 people that were primarily just part of a few families that sort of banded together. And was like, we're going to be dipshits together. Yeah, let's be dipshits for Jesus. And they ended up killing her. And so the news update for this today is that in an Australian court, 14 of the people in that cult were held accountable for her death. They were either charged with murder directly or manslaughter, and they haven't been sentenced yet. And I hope that they do get sentenced worse than her parents got. Her parents barely got anything. as far as murdering your child goes, especially murdering your child by denying them insulin. I mean, honestly, that just makes me want to beat the shit out of both of those parents. I just, shoving your foot up someone's asshole will kill them. And I definitely want to shove my foot up both their assholes. My point is that they got sentenced, the 14 people that enabled this situation, and hopefully they will actually be held accountable. But this particular situation right here really does hit home, because especially here in America, it's, for some people it's hard to get insulin. And especially those that are in faith communities, that are faith healing communities, they are denied these kinds of basic life-saving care on a daily basis. And you hear about these things all the time, and it pisses me so off. But these types of stories are the reasons why I fight against Christian nationalism, against Christian fundamentalism, against all of that kind of shit. And I take so much shit like over there on other social medias because of my focus on Christian fundamentalism and Christianity in general, religion in general. Everybody gets that kind of pushback, but I'm just saying that, like, stories like this make me so mad and irate. But it's the thing that keeps me doing this, along with getting messages from people that tell me that I've helped them personally in their lives by standing up, using my voice, and speaking out against bullshit like this. This girl should be alive today, but she's not, because somebody thought a magical fucking wizard was going to save her. As long as they prayed enough for it, the magical wizard would have fixed her pancreas. And that angers me to the point of tears. But that's the news for today. Kind of a somber note there, I get it. But I hope people recognize the dangers of religion and religious thought, especially when it comes to this particular topic of magical healing, faith healing, and all this other stuff. I hope that people recognize the dangers of that, and that's why I bring it up. But anyways, we do need to get to Brosephus' section, and that's the fuck around and find out section. So I am going to go and get Brosephus real quick, and then we will get to the comments. So I hope that you guys are ready for it. I'm going to go get him. Hey, Brosephus, I got your shit set up and everything. Come on, man. It's your new segment.
Hey, buddy.
Woohoo! I got a new segment. Holy fuck, let's get this shit show started. I'm glad I'm not having to explain shit to y'all, all this basic shit and everything that everybody does all the time. I'm glad that I'm actually getting to respond to some of these Trump idiots. They are some crazy fucking people. I'm no fan of Trump, but I am a fan of beer, barbecue, and some fucking freedom. All right. Now, as I understand it, there's a special introduction prepared for this. GE told me about it right before, he started going live tonight. He said that you just got to push this one button before you start, and then this one button after, and then everything will be good. So let's go on ahead and see what he's got prepared for us. Are you ready there, Casey?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's see what he's got going on. Find out! We're about to find out after people have fucked around. Okay, let's see what's our first thing here. Oh, we got old Donnie, the mildewy oranged asshole himself. Have y'all seen his fucking tan lately? It kind of looks like he just rolled around in some Cheeto dust and then he just got surprised at the end, like, oh shit, it's Cheeto dust? Holy fuck. He's got the worst tan ever. I hope that he didn't actually pay for that. I hope he stole it like he steals everything else. Anyways, okay, so Donald Trump, Donnie Boy here says, looks like billions of dollars have been stolen by USAID and other agencies, much of it going to the fake news media as a payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats. The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received $8 million. Did the New York Times receive money? Why? Who else did? This could be the biggest scandal of them all. Perhaps the biggest in history. The Democrats can't hide from this one. Too big, too dirty, just like my asshole all the time. But it depends. Okay. So just to let you guys know, Donnie here has either been misinformed or he misread the line item for this $8 million. My guess is that he misread it because he can't read shit. Y'all remember when he tugged at his lip while somebody was reading the Constitution? He had the Constitution on a real live like audio book right in front of him, and he was sitting there tugging on his lip in 2016 because he couldn't stand it because they weren't mentioning his name enough in the Constitution. Anyways, what was actually funded was ProPublica. No, sorry, not ProPublica. It was Politico Pro. Okay, they actually funded Politico Pro. Politico Pro was different from Politico, the news agency. Politico Pro was actually a tool that was used by multiple different people on the Hill in order to make smart policy decisions in light of current, socioeconomic things like certain news articles and everything. It provided analysis and everything. It was a tool for policymakers to use to make better policy. And Donald Trump just sees the word Politico as like, Politico? They paid news organizations to write good shit about them. Of course, that's despite the fact that I believe Politico was the news outlet that said that Donald Trump is a good president. He's just still trying to be a great president. Or no, that's backwards. They said he's a great president. He's still trying to be a good president. So it kind of seems like Politico was sucking his taint at that particular time. But he's cut off all funding sources to all news outlets now, including Politico Pro, which is not a news outlet. So policymakers are not going to be able to make smart policies anymore. Not that they were doing all that great before, especially the conservatives over there. But I'm just saying that now they're even less equipped to make good policies because of Donald Trump. But I do want to let everybody know that this is the Christian nationalist line to the T. They don't want to make the government efficient, despite the fact that Trump created that Doge agency. They don't care about making it efficient. If they cared about making it efficient, then they wouldn't have recalled all the federal workers back into work, forcing them to work out of goddamn conference rooms. Yes, that's actually happening, by the way. They have to work elbow to elbow, shoulder to fucking shoulder. You could smell it when a person farts. You have to sit right next to them in a conference room. They're not even given proper desks, but hey, at least they're being forced back in. And they're actually acknowledging that, there's going to be a dip in productivity. And you know what? I bet you that productivity is not going to go back up. It's going to stay right the fuck there, I bet you. Anyways, all of this to say that this is what they want. They want to make the government the least efficient entity in the world, the U.S. government, that is, the least efficient entity in the world, and they only want to drain the government of all of its resources. And this is the start of it right here. Pushing propaganda, lying to the public, and everything like that. So Donald Trump is just pushing propaganda here. That was a really long way to say that, but that's what's happening. Next up, let's see, what do we got? Trump preps order to dismantle Department of Education as Doge probes data. Closing the agency would require congressional approval, so the new administration hopes to diminish it in the meantime. CJ Gooden here over there on the twat says just don't take away my PSLF, which is the public service, I think it's public service loan forgiveness, I believe, program. Public student loan forgiveness. He stated it right afterwards. I don't know why he put it in there twice, but that's what he did. I have 8 more months, 8 payments to go, and then my loans will be forgiven. People that are currently in this program need to be able to see it through. Oh, I'm sorry, CJ Gooding, but we know that you actually voted for this bullshit. We know that you voted for Trump there, CJ. So you voted specifically for this administration, which means you are going to have to suffer the consequences of this administration just like every fucking body else right now. So not only are you not getting your loan forgiven, but also I would be surprised if you don't have to pay more, because they're definitely on some kind of retribution sort of timeline here where they're going to make people pay for all of the shit that Biden did for the past 4 years. Helping people out and everything like that. He don't want that. He don't want you to be helped. He doesn't care if you voted for him, because this is the last time apparently that you need to vote. So, he's already gotten what he needs. He don't give a shit about you and your fucking loan forgiveness. So I guess you're just going to have to suffer like the rest of us. You're going to have to watch while they fucking put the pineapple on the pizza. I know it is gross, and they should do something about it. But fucking Donald Trump won't do anything about pineapple on pizza. He's the one advocating for pineapple on fucking pizza right now. CJ Gooden don't care though. He just wants his loan forgiven. Rich people don't work that way, dumbass. Next up, another dumbass suffers the consequences of their vote. What the hell happened to my SOIAL security spousal survival benefits on February 3rd being cut by $600? Went from $1,900 a month to $1,300 a month. I almost dropped dead. Nothing has changed. 68 years old, raising 14-year-old grandson, no food stamps. Florida said that I made too much. Nothing, just my Social Security. How the heck do I pay my bills and feed my grandson? I thought Social Security wasn't supposed to be cut. I voted for Trump. Guess I was an idiot. I'm not saying it, but you are. I hate the position that you're in. I definitely feel for you being in this position, because other people that did not vote for this orange shit gibbon are put in this position too. So I definitely feel for you. But at the same time, that care that I feel for those that did not vote for this shitty situation does not extend to you, person that I do not know from Florida. It does not extend, because I do not care about your suffering. You voted to make other people suffer. You voted to own the libs, or you voted to have cheaper groceries, which isn't going to happen, or you voted for any number of fucking things out there that are not going to happen for you, because rich people do not give a shit about your poor ass. Okay? They do not want to make the situation better for you. They want to drain Medicaid and Social Security. And you know what? It would be really helpful, and I'm turning away to say this so I don't blow y'all's ears out, which I know I'm already doing. It would be really fucking helpful if there was some kind of document that was published by the people that had direct contact with the fucking administration that was laying out their 180-day plan to fuck over America, and specifically fuck over Social Security and Medicaid and take it away from you. Maybe, just maybe, you should have listened to fucking people that were telling you that this is the plan of Project 2025, and Agenda 47 is actually Project 2025 in disguise. Maybe if you had been told by several people on the internet or personally that this was going to happen, maybe then you would have listened. But I think that considering that all of that shit fucking happened and you still allowed this shit to happen because you voted for this orange shit gibbon, we know our answer. So no, I don't really have any sympathy for you, random person from Florida. I feel bad for your 14-year-old grandson.
I feel bad that he is going to have to suffer because of your dipshittery. That's what I feel bad about. That's who I feel bad for. The people that didn't vote for this and they're going to have to suffer the consequences because of dumbasses like this. Again, from Florida. I don't know why Florida is so popular with the dumbasses, but that seems to be a haven for them. Look at their governor. That's right there, KC. I agree. Woo! All right, so beyond betrayal, Venezuelans in Florida are angry at Trump for immigration policy. What did you think was going to happen? He campaigned on hating immigrants. He campaigned on deporting all the fucking immigrants. Again, I ask,
Jesus
what
loves the little children, maybe a little too much.
Yeah, I was just dancing. Oh shit. Yeah, it does. Sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't hear. I can get GE to swap it out afterwards, okay? But so the Venezuelans are mad, but they really shouldn't be mad because these are Venezuelans that voted for Trump. And they thought that they were safe because they were on that TSP or is it TSP or TPS? Well, it's the protection thing that some immigrants have. So anyways, there's some immigrants that, you know, aren't necessarily documented, but they're protected because they've sought asylum. Okay. They thought that they were protected because they had those things. Well, Trump is going to deport them. And they feel very betrayed by the fact that they voted for Trump. Sorry, let me rephrase that. They feel very betrayed by the fact that they voted for the leopards to eat their face, and now they're surprised that the leopards that they voted to eat their faces are actually going to eat their face. I fail to find within me the sympathy that you so rightly deserve right now for being deported. I feel bad for those that are definitely going to be deported and did not vote for this bullshittery. But sadly enough, they did not get an option in this because you overrode it. I'm saying you by the maggots out there. They overrode their need to stay in this country. So I failed to find the fucks to give for this particular situation. I'm sorry, Venezuelans, but Trump is definitely going to eat your face because he apparently thinks that it's a McDonald's hamburger. I don't know why. You'll have to ask him, but you probably can't. Now, finally, this is something that GE has been doing on the page that he kind of wanted me to go over a little bit. This was a little bit more of the propaganda versus reality. Okay, and GE's been producing, you know, these great graphics over there that's hoping to illuminate all the propaganda coming out of this current administration, and this will be continuing on as long as the conservatives are in power, which is kind of up in the air as to how long that's going to last. But anyways, so what we have here is, oh shit, I'm going to have to change headphones anyways. Propaganda. Biden and DEI hiring practices allowed an incompetent air traffic controller to cause the plane crash. Basically, what Trump said during his press conference was, well, there was this intellectually disabled or intellectually handicapped aircraft controller who was probably also black and decided to crash a couple planes into each other. Yeah, they were trans, black, and intellectually disabled, and apparently the FAA had to hire him because of DEI practices that were actually around during Trump's first presidency. And also all of the air traffic started to get really fucking dangerous after Doge came in and made a bunch of cuts and everything like that. So like, I mean, couldn't possibly be the cuts made to the FAA and the air traffic controllers. It couldn't possibly be that fucking Elon Musk is a crazy fucking businessman that likes to crack the whip on slave labor and force everybody to work ungodly hours and understaffed. It couldn't possibly be that. It's gotta be the trans, gay, black, intellectually deficient air traffic controller that doesn't exist. In reality, as I point out, GE points out down there, the reality is Donald Trump fired the FAA director. He froze hiring amid an air traffic controller shortage, which I know some people have pushed back that this shortage has been there since like the previous summer or whatnot. The fact is that conservatives are responsible for the FAA not getting the necessary funds in order to hire more air traffic controllers. So it's still on the shoulders of conservatives in Congress right now that there is an air traffic controller fucking shortage. Pete Buttigieg asked for more money. They denied him more money. So it's their fucking fault that planes are literally, and I mean fucking literally, falling out of the sky. Anyways, to continue, he disbanded the Aviation Safety Advisory Committee and pushed retirements. All of this contributed to the first U.S. mid-air collision in 16 years. Trump's mishandling of the FAA directly contributed to this crash. And the fact that he let a South African white supremacist tell him that how he should run fucking airports, that probably also contributed to it directly too. I mean, fuck Elon Musk. He can oligargle these balls, as was shown on the intro thing. Anyways, that's going to be it for all the fuck around and find out. Now I got to play our outro music, okay? So let's see. It's this button. I'm going to go get GE and a new headset and everything like that. I hope you guys have a lovely night and everything. Burn in hell and whatever in the fuck. Bye, y'all. Woo, GE, you don't have your fucking shit charged and stuff. You need to get on that, okay there, buddy? Listen, I just didn't realize that it wasn't charged, so, you know, I just don't need your bullshit there, Bracefus, but thank you for doing the fuck around and find out. Hey, you know, I always love shitting on Trump, and I mean, that's shitting on people that wanted Trump, so it's pretty much the same fucking thing. I know. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate you. Whew. All right, now we got that fuck around and find out done. How'd y'all like that song? Did you actually get to hear the song? Okay, it's the fuck around and find out song that I did. Sorry, I didn't do the song. It was somebody else. The original Sinfluencer that's over there on TikTok. He composed it and everything like that. He and his wife do those kinds of things. And so I guess I don't know that she's his wife, partner, whatever. So it's a great content creator there over there on TikTok. So definitely go and check them out. Okay, so now that we got all of that good shit out of the way, we are going to get to the video tonight, which I don't actually have the video pulled up. I just got to get it pulled up here real quick.
Have you ever ran into someone who said...
Nope, not yet, but I hope to run into somebody that says that. Okay. Okay. Let's get on over here to the response. All right, it's all set up. All good to go. All right, so this is a video tonight. A little bit of a complicated thing. I tried listening to it beforehand. Well, I did listen to it, but I didn't watch the video. So I thought that I heard that it's this guy right here, is responding to a video that this woman is doing. Maybe he's talking directly to her. Maybe this is an interview kind of situation. I'm not sure. I don't know, but we're going to find out. But anyways, that's what's going on right there. This is the guy that actually posted the video. And I've noticed that this is a thing that Christians are doing a lot now. And that's these content mill channels where they basically take people that are actually producing content and they just play the video and add some of their shitty like rhetoric on either side of it, which is vastly different from what I do because I disagree with the videos that I'm presenting. And so like I play the video a little bit and then I add some commentary. I explain how they're wrong. Something like just a normal response video. That's vastly different than what they're doing. And that's basically just using somebody else's content in order to create content for themselves. Just it's just barely enough to be considered like transformative work. And so that's what we're going to be watching tonight is some content mill shit. Please forgive me for choosing some content mill shit, but it sounded quite interesting. Like the title in general sounded interesting. Okay, let's see what he's got. What we're going to be going over is the title of the video. If an atheist says Jesus was a myth, say this. Wow. So I'm expecting some mind-blowing sort of shit to go on here. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're fucking around so that we can find out. Hope you guys are here for it with me.
Have you ever ran into someone who said Jesus never existed? There was never a historical person for Jesus? We have answers addressing this very simple answer.
There's actually
very, very simple answer. Okay. Since it's simple, like there should definitely be like good evidence, right? Like it's evidence based, right? Please tell me that you have evidence to back up whatever you're about to say. Let's find out.
no historical evidence of the Jesus Christ in history other than the books in the New Testament, all of which were written decades after he supposedly died. My people who say they believe in him. There's not one artifact, there's no historical document, nothing.
Okay, so she appears to be a co-host on it that's going to be interacting with the other guy, and they're interacting with a comment. So this is still kind of tri-layered here in that they're responding to a comment, and then he's responding to their response to the comment. And I guess adding his own sort of shitty exposition on top of their opinion. I don't know. Let's find out. I do agree with the comment, though, that there's no good evidence outside the New Testament for Jesus existing. There are some extra biblical references, but all of those seem to be either fabricated or they're just regurgitating what Christians were saying at the time. The earliest...
We got a new member!
Well, not a new member, but a member chat. Mark Fernkopf says, can't wait for Fuck Around and Find Out song going to be on the Billboard 100. I've got to hear a lot more of that song. It's so good. I'll definitely try to put a link to the original down there in the description when I get done. But so as far as this goes, I do agree about all that. There's no good references outside the New Testament. And if we look at the earliest references within the biblical text, it's Paul. Paul only ever describes Jesus as a celestial figure. He never describes Jesus as a human person walking on earth. And Paul also never specifies anything about Jesus's time on earth. So there's essentially no way to use our earliest references about Jesus to place him on earth, making it very dubious, especially when you consider the connections to mystery cults in the Mediterranean at that time. None of the mystery cults had savior figures that were real actual people. They were all mythological. So it seems like the evidence leads in the direction of mythological figure.
Wow. I'm not really sure actually if this person is joking or not, but we'll address it anyway. I just want to say that I don't want to overlook the New Testament.
That's crazy that he would say that.
As a historian.
I'm sorry. That just made me laugh because like they literally haven't said anything whatsoever. And he's just like, pause it. Wow, that's crazy, yo. Play. I mean, is this the level of content creation that Christians are like attracted to? Like, is this the level of ingenuity that Christians are like drawn to? What the fuck is this shit? Add some real like content here on top of that. Explain your position. Explain why you agree with them. Do something more than like a Joe Rogan soundbite when you're not listening. Like, wow, that's crazy, yo. Play. Oh my God.
Historical document. You know, this person said there's no evidence outside the New Testament of Jesus. And before we go on to that actual evidence, I don't want to overlook the fact that the New Testament is a very respected historical document written by.
Okay, no. I have to stop here. The New Testament is not a respected historical document. For one thing, it's kind of crazy that he's referencing the entirety of the New Testament as a document when most of the time by religious opponents of mine, they state, oh, it's multiple documents. It's multiple books. There's no reason for you to call it one document because it's not one document. It's multiple books. So like, it's not a respected document for one, as far as history goes. It's not respected in that kind of sense. And then two, it doesn't really have any outside support for any of the things that it claims. It doesn't have any like discussion on source criticism. It doesn't have any kind of discussion whatsoever on really anything that would indicate that it was regurgitating like historical facts or telling us historical facts. The best that we've got in the New Testament is going to be Paul's letters. Paul's letters, though, don't really give us any kind of indication about whether or not Jesus was historical. So historians, critical scholars, they've all identified the gospel narratives as being fictional narratives. It's just a matter of how much of it is fictional. And you have different levels in critical scholarship as to what is historical and what isn't. I disagree with all of them because none of them can actually source their information in real historical research. All they can do is just speculate about which parts are historical, and then they just proclaim that these things are historical for one reason or another. And so like, that's why I'm not convinced of it. But this guy is obviously coming from a very Christian fundamentalist sort of background here. So I totally expect him to think that the Bible and the New Testament in general is very reliable, when in fact it's not.
Eyewitnesses or those who recorded eyewitness testimony. So, for example, in Luke actually emphasizes his careful investigation. So he interviewed eyewitnesses, and
No. He doesn't say that he interviewed eyewitnesses. He said that he investigated. Hold on, let's just fucking bring this up right now. Hold on, Luke 1. All right, so if you're gonna look this up, if you're watching on the replay or you're doing it right now, do not use the New International Version, which is the common version that is usually brought up like automatically through searches and stuff. The version that you want to get is the NRSVUE. That's New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. And I know that's kind of bullshit that they have different versions and every version has their own sort of interpretation of the words that are listed and everything. But I'm saying to use this version because it's more accurate to not only the Greek that it was written in, but also the context in which it was written in. Like what did the authors actually mean? And so they essentially just tried to explain it in that kind of fashion. This authorship there. Let's start with the dedication of Theophilus, not Thomas. Let me get this actually up on the screen just real quick. We've got the web here. Right, there we go. We're just going to read this section right here. All right. So reading this section, dedication to Theophilus, starting from 1:1. Since many have undertaken to compile a narrative about the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed on to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. So let's just take a second right there to really analyze that. Just as they were handed on to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. So it was already twice removed from the eyewitnesses that are claimed to be eyewitnesses without any kind of verification that they actually were eyewitnesses. All right. I too decided, as one having a grasp of everything from the start, to write a well-ordered account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may have a firm grasp of the words in which you have been instructed. So he doesn't say that he got his information from eyewitnesses. He's claiming that he knows everything from the start, and it kind of seems to indicate there on verse 2, right, that they were handed down by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses. So this is somebody who the information was handed down to, and he collated that information to a well-ordered account. Now, what it means by well-ordered account here is a linear story, a linear progression moving from one event to the next event in time. Okay? That's important for a number of different interpretations of Luke. There's this one interpretation of Luke that is sort of saying that Luke sort of takes events and he places them out of order in order to teach a message. But it's very obvious here at the very beginning that that's not what he's doing. He's putting together a well-ordered, right, account. And so we have to take Luke at least at his word here that one, he understands what happened from the very beginning. People that were eyewitnesses handed them down to other people that then handed it down to him. And that seems to be how he understands it. And then he is not the eyewitness, but he collated all of the eyewitness accounts into a single account that is supposed to illuminate, the story of Jesus better than the other stories of Jesus. So that's where Luke starts off. So already straight fucking out the gate, he's totally fucking lying to us. Or no, maybe he's not lying. This is probably what he's been taught. I shouldn't say that he's lying, because he's probably been taught this. He fully believes this. So he doesn't have any kind of bad intent on his part. He's just been taught a lie, and now he's repeating a lie.
He talks about how how many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those from the first were eyewitnesses and servants to the word.
So this, just to interrupt here, this differs greatly from other historical writers at the time, like actual historians of ancient history. And I don't mean that like modern historians of ancient history. What I mean is like historians that were in the ancient world and how they would write histories about people and events. They don't just simply say, I got this from eyewitnesses. Don't, trust me, bro. That's not what they did. What they did was they had full-on sections discussing their source material, why it was the best source material, why they used the source material, how they reconciled contradictions in their source material, who their source material came from. They had whole sections on this, and that's not what we get here. We don't get this from Luke. We don't get this, we don't get this from any of the biblical writers, like whatsoever. So I don't understand why they're just automatically being like, he says it's from eyewitnesses, therefore it has to be from eyewitnesses. That's not how historical research goes. You have to have source criticism. You have to know where this information came from. The fact that there were gospel narratives that were circulating 20 years prior to Luke writing his gospel, that's an important fact. Of course, he's not going to admit that Luke was written past 93 AD, maybe even into the 2nd century. He thinks that Luke was written like directly after the events, right? That's what he's going to think, because that's the apologist line. But that's not what happened. Luke was written 20 years after the first gospel was written, and there were 2 gospels prior to Luke's gospel that Luke definitely used in order to generate his, as well as other extra Christian texts. Like there was the Iliad, the Odyssey, Josephus's work. All of those were used in order to generate the story that Luke presents in his gospel and in Acts. And I say Luke, his name wasn't Luke. We don't know what his name is. He was an anonymous author. Just some asshole in the 2nd century, like Papias or somebody else, just affixed a name to this particular gospel. And that's how we get that it was Luke that wrote it. So, all right, we're a minute 21 in to a 9-minute video. I need to let it play.
With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you.
Trust me, bro. You just gotta trust me, bro. All right, I know everything from the beginning. Trust me, bro.
Most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. So we're coming from the perspective here of a historian. So these accounts were written during the lifetimes of the eyewitnesses, meaning that,
well, no, they weren't written during the lifetimes of the eyewitnesses. If there were eyewitnesses, these were written a lifetime later. Like there was a full lifetime later is when Luke would have been written. As far as all this goes, there's some speculation as to whether or not Luke could just be some old fuck that's writing shit down. But I typically disagree with the inclusion of like really old poor people at that time, because like this poor class of people, they definitely didn't survive into their like 80s. So I don't know why people are convinced by, oh, there were old people at that time. It's like, sure, there were old people, but were there old poor people? Like, not saying that there weren't old poor people. I'm just saying that it's highly unlikely to make it into your old age as a poor and destitute person in the Middle East at this time. So the most likely situation is that they wouldn't have made it to that age. And so Luke, being this, very poor, destitute Jew in the 1st century, as far as like the apologist claim goes, doesn't seem like he would make it to like the late 90s. But I guess you also have to take into account that he's thinking that Luke wrote this like directly after Jesus fucking died. So, I mean, I don't know how you would reconcile that, but it's just demonstrably not true that that's when Luke was written. Luke was written much later, and definitely not by eyewitnesses. If he was an eyewitness or there were eyewitness accounts, then it would read very differently. And the fact that Luke had to use other accounts in order, like copied verbatim other accounts, he used them to generate his gospel, seems to indicate that they were not eyewitnesses and that he's just working off of a trust me, bro kind of foundation there.
that the claims could be challenged if they were untrue. Now,
that's good. I'm sick and tired of people saying that the Gospels don't count as historical records or historical evidence for Jesus.
Casey was like, I'm sick and fucking tired of you assholes. Me too. I'm sick and fucking tired of all these assholes too there, hun. So I'm rather sick and tired of religious people acting like the biblical texts are trustworthy, because they aren't. I mean, you have magical shit in it, sure, but all of the stories about Jesus, you can't source them to any place other than the Gospels. They all originated in the Gospels, and sure, you could come up with different scenarios where you have different people that have, I guess, stories about Jesus, but you don't know if those stories are actual eyewitness accounts or if they just made the shit up, right? So there's just simply no way to actually validate what's being said there. There's no way to validate that these people were actually eyewitnesses and they're not just making it up. So like, until Christians can do that, until Christians can actually verify that these stories originated as eyewitness accounts, it's just not going to be convincing. And we're going to continue telling you that it's not convincing and that the Gospels do not represent reality. All right? They do not represent true history. Or at least at the very least, we can't discern true history from fiction in the Gospels, and that makes them utterly fucking useless.
And that is completely false. They're manuscripts, just like any other manuscript out there. But those ones were...
That's not true. They're not just like any other manuscript out there. Because of the fact that it was a mainline religion and that they had a lot of people that were copying the documents and all this other kind of shit, like you had all of these things that were happening as far as like Christianity goes. There's definitely a lot of shit that got added later. Like for instance, with the Gospel of John, you have the stoning of the whore. That was added much later to push a particular narrative. So you have stories just like that in the longer ending to Mark that were added much later in church tradition. And so we don't know what to trust in them because we don't have the original copies. We don't have the original information. We don't have any kind of source criticism that leads us back to like firsthand account or anything like that. All we have are Christians that are speculating about them being the Gospels, being eyewitness accounts, with no way to verify that they actually are eyewitness accounts. So no, I'm not convinced by the Gospels. I'll never be convinced by the Gospels until you find some kind of new manuscript that dates way before Paul that shows that all of this shit is actually real.
Were the ones that we decided to put into the Bible. That is all. And he's going to get into now that there are 5 other sources that mentions Jesus outside of the Bible.
You have a really good point that you like to bring up about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you said really sets the stage with the historical background. But I mean, this person is sort of just going against the commonly accepted scholarly perspective. Like,
okay, so this particular part right here is a little plays a little bit of fucky with my head, just because of the fact that for them to say that the Gospels are respected and treated as historical documents that are from eyewitnesses, that goes against the historical or the common like scholarly consensus. That right there is not part of the scholarly consensus, but then she claims that like mythicists are going against the scholarly consensus. So it kind of seems like a bit of a hypocrisy there in that they're fine going against the grain when it's their faith, and then they're also fine calling that shit out when it's something they don't like. So it just seems like cherry picking to me. Like you're cherry picking which authorities to listen to. You're cherry picking the fundamentalist scholars that agree with you already that the Bible is representative of history, and that is the consensus for you. But amongst critical scholars, they do not view them that way. They do not present them that way. And the majority of good New Testament scholars and historians do not see them that way. And you have to come to terms with that. I'm perfectly fine with you going against the grain as long as you have the evidence to back it up. That's why I am fine going against the grain as far as mythicism goes, because I feel like there is evidence to back up my position. I can present that evidence. You tell me something that's historical about Jesus, and I will tell you how it's either fabricated or that we can't source it to a real historical event or real eyewitnesses that did actually exist, so that we can't trust that story or that fact or anything like that. So I can back my position up with evidence. Can you do the same for the Gospels being historically reliable? I doubt it. The only way that you can do that is if you get real cool with bad history real fast.
not even just a Christian perspective. I just pulled up Wikipedia. Okay, the first.
That is the best resource to use when you're trying to disprove some historical shit, is go to Wikipedia and then read directly off of Wikipedia's fucking page. Now, I'm not here to denigrate people that use Wikipedia. I've used Wikipedia. It's a good amalgamation of different resources. But I guess what I'm chastising both of these people for is reading directly from the Wikipedia page instead of using the sources on Wikipedia and then presenting those as the evidence for why some fact is true. I think that you should focus on what source they use and how they source their information. Focus on that, and I think that you'll be okay. But the fact that she's just reading directly off of the page is not convincing to me whatsoever. And I agree. The consensus of scholars is that Jesus existed as a historical figure. What I'm saying and what mythicists are saying is that we disagree with that position because we disagree with the underlying evidence that's used to support the position. So you essentially, in this particular situation, you cannot cite the current consensus in order to refute a position that challenges the evidence that consensus is based on. You have to cite some kind of piece of evidence that goes below the consensus into the heart of the evidence that disproves mythicism. So that's where you need to focus. You don't need to focus on this top level shit. You need to go deeper. Okay. I'm just saying, like, look at the evidence for it, not just the consensus of New Testament fundamentalist Christians out there.
Paragraph on the Wikipedia article about the historicity of Jesus. It says, today scholars agree that a Jewish man named Jesus of Nazareth did exist in Judea and the subsequent Herodian Tetrarchy in the 1st century AD, upon whose life and teachings Christianity was later construction.
Right. That's what the consensus of New Testament scholars is. Historians that are outside of New Testament scholarship are just going to reference what New Testament scholars say, because there's not really a lot of historians that are specifically interested in Christian origins. Those that are interested in Christian origins are going to be New Testament scholars that usually masquerade as New Testament historians. And so, considering that New Testament scholarship is basically advanced apologetics, it seems to me like they are really arguing from a position that's laced with bias, and you can tell that by how they argue for certain facts about Jesus. They argue like that the finding of the tomb being empty is historical because it'd be embarrassing for women to find the tomb. That's something that Frank Turk says all the time. That's something that a lot of people say all the time. So it doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence in your scholars here, and you citing all the scholars by just saying what they believe. I feel like you actually have to handle what the evidence is to support those things. Also, mind you, the consensus of New Testament scholarship isn't the gospel Jesus. It is an random itinerant rabbi, unknown to like everybody at that time. Nobody gave a fuck about him. He was one Messiah amongst plenty of Messiahs. Nobody cared. And then he died. His followers were devastated. They stole the body, and then they made a religion. Like, that's a far cry from what the Gospels present, but also it shows how you're totally out of your depth when discussing this topic.
Constructed.
Right.
So this is not just like a Christian perspective. This is like any Ivy League university. This is like the historical perspective of.
Okay, that's just wrong. This is definitely a Christian perspective, the thing that she's saying. The thing that she's saying is definitely a fundamentalist Christian perspective. A more critical scholar will tell you something similar, but not exactly the way that she's presenting it. So I grant her a little grace for that, I guess. But at the same time, these are all still people that are trained by fundamentalist Christians. They are trained, even liberal Christians are going to train Christian New Testament scholars in bad history. And that's just the state of New Testament scholarship right now. They use bad history in order to validate certain things about the gospel narratives and biblical narratives in general. They use bad history in order to do that. So how can I be expected to trust a field that relies on bad history in order to prove the points that it's making? I would think that you would want to use good history, good historical methodology in order to prove your points. But it seems to me like New Testament scholars are perfectly fine with their shitty fucking methods, their shitty fucking logic, because their shitty methods and logic seem to prove the thing that they already believe. Why should I trust those people that are only reporting the things they want to believe in as being true, whereas you have other people that are not totally convinced by it, that are actually trained in history, and they do the research and they come away with something totally fucking different than you have?
Of course, what you believe about who Jesus is varies a lot. But it's widely agreed upon that he was a historical figure who did live at this time, who was crucified by the Romans, etc.
There you have it.
There you have it. Wikipedia says it. Oh, case closed. Boom. Drop mic. Fucking go look at Wikipedia, dipshits. I'm Audi 5000, yo. Woo. Not really. Let's see what he's got to say.
Wikipedia proves Jesus is real, but it's very accepted all over the world that Jesus actually was a historical person.
Okay, so just to chime in here with something more substantive than what this bro just interrupted with. Just because an idea is very popular does not mean that that idea is historically verifiable or that it is even true. Just appealing to popularity is not going to be a convincing argument for any particular subject. So I feel like you got to make a more substantive argument to support your conclusion that Jesus was a real historical figure, not just everybody believes it. Just look at Wikipedia. All right, let's end this shit. Goodbye. Like, that's just not going to be compelling, and it shouldn't be compelling to anybody. Like, if I came on here as Godless Engineer and I was like, oh, Wikipedia says that evolution's true. Get fucked, creationists. Goodbye. Like, that wouldn't be good content. And this isn't good. Like, the original people that are having this conversation, the two on the screen there, they're having a good conversation. They're providing good content. Right? I'm not trying to shit on them too much, other than they're Christian and they're deeply Christian. And I don't blame them for being deeply Christian. This guy right here, though, I'm thoroughly offended by the content that he's producing.
I'm not sure if people have ever thought about the connection between the New Testament and the book Robinson Crusoe. Have you heard of Robinson Crusoe?
Sure.
Okay, the guy who lives on a deserted island, and survives. Okay, so why Robinson Crusoe is so famous as a piece of literature is because that book is considered to be a literary breakthrough in the style verisimilitude, meaning a story that's told with all these little details to try to make it sound real, right? So Robinson Crusoe, and he caught the fish, and there were 10 fish, and then he, cleaned the fish. I don't know, but it's like every little detail.
Oh yeah, totally. Like, fiction's easily to make very detailed. As far as fiction goes, you can make it sound like it actually did happen. You can place fictional stories within real time frames, and you can even create those stories to sound like they really happened. I totally agree. What's your fucking point?
Which is not real, but it's trying to create a story that feels real because it's so detailed. So, okay, Robinson Crusoe was written in 1710, 1700 years after the New Testament, or 1600 years, depending on which books we're talking about. So either the New Testament is a historical document based on eyewitness interviews, right? Because it's not written in like mythology. You
Right.
can read, mythology from that time period. It sounds nothing like the New Testament.
No. I mean, there's mythology. Like, there's even in Judaism, there was mythology surrounding like Moses. In the Old Testament, like Moses, Abraham, Noah, all of them, they were all mythological. And all of them were written to exist within a time frame. They were all written to explain certain things. They were all written to seem real. So, like you saying that, oh, this mythology out here was written in a certain way that isn't believable, that's a bit anachronistic, because it's not believable to you, but it is believable to people at that time. Like, you can't take your modern sense of what is believable and what isn't and apply it to what Jews and Jewish Christians would have thought in the first century, right? Like, this is totally taking it out of context. You're totally looking at these stories through a modern lens, and that's just never going to be compelling, and it's never going to be good enough to actually dispel the questions that mythicists have. So I'm not saying that she's like lying about anything necessarily, but she's woefully misunderstanding how to do historical research, because you can't just look at it through a modern lens. You have to look at it through a lens that is colored by the culture that they're in. It has to be examined through a lens that takes into account all of the information surrounding Jews and Jewish Christians pre-Common Era and in the first century Common Era, right? And so if you don't do that, then you're going to be woefully misinterpreting the information. Like, for instance, the people that would have written the Gospels, they wrote them in Greek. The only way that you could have been taught to write in Greek, which was seen as a different skill set than speaking in Greek, which Greek was the main language at that time in that particular area. To write in Greek, you had to go to a pagan school. So you had to go to a pagan school. You were influenced by all these pagan stories, all these mystery cults, all these stories about these pagan gods and everything like that. And the key here is that the way that they taught people to write in Greek was that they took these older mythologies, right? They took these older stories about the gods that the Greeks at that time thought were real. They thought they were real stories about these celestial figures that were the gods, the pantheon, and everything like that. And they took these stories and they rewrote them, right? Just with their own particular flavor on them. So, like, they took the stories of these Hellenistic stories of their pantheon of gods. They rewrote them to make it more Jewish. They added Yahweh in there. They added El in there. They added all these different things to make them really fucking Jewish. And so they rewrote the stories, and that's why, like, for instance, Luke has some of the Odyssey and Iliad in there. Specifically surrounding like the sea stories and everything like that. Like, basically the author of Luke took the Odyssey and the Iliad and recrafted them to be stories about Paul and his trips on the Sea of Galilee. I believe it was the Sea of Galilee. No, maybe it was the Mediterranean Sea. Sorry, I haven't read it in a while. But in any case, he took these boat trips and he derived the stories from it from the Iliad and the Odyssey. And so you have these writers that were learning to write in Greek. And so they took previous stories, they molded them to their own purpose, and then they presented them as the Gospels. And so you have to take that into context when you're talking about these things. Because, like, if you're saying that these older mythologies are so vastly different than how the Gospels are, that literally can't be true. They are literally rewrites of older mythologies. And it's painfully obvious. Even to critical New Testament scholars that are taught bad history, they recognize this. That's why they have such differing criteria on what is historical in the Gospels. Is they have to come up with different criteria in order to identify things that are most likely historical. Because they don't have good methodology to begin with, because it's all fucking fictional bullshit in the first place.
Either it's a historical document based on interviews of real people who are remembering real details of their lives, or it's a literary miracle because it's a book written in a style that wasn't invented until
To say
it was definitely a literary style that was invented. Like fiction at that time was invented, even historical fiction, even fictional biographies. There's a biography about Moses. He was not a historical figure. Like, I feel like most critical scholars, as well as most atheists, would agree with me and stand firm with me that Moses was not a historical figure. Right? I say most because there's still some people out there that would think that. You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Daniel M says, do you think that the gospel writers might have just been some type of monks? Just curious. Well, I think that monks came much later. Monks are more of a product of like an organized Catholic sort of tradition. It seems, at least that's my understanding of monks. The ones that would have been writing the Gospels, they were Jewish Christians, for one. Well, the earlier Gospels, like Mark and probably a little bit of Matthew, were written by Jewish Christians. And then later ones were fully Christianized, like Luke and John, fully Christianized and everything like that. And so not monks, but they were deep into the religious faith of Christianity at that time. So monks being a very specific category, I don't think they were monks, but were they highly devotional religious people in those movements? Definitely. But yeah, she's outright claiming things that are just simply not true, showing that she's just speculating based on limited information that she received from fucking Wikipedia. And so I would just advise this young woman to go and actually research like what scholars are saying, not just the fundamentalist scholars that are going to say the things that she wants to hear, but real critical scholars. Because even if you go and you read Bart Ehrman's going to disagree with you on this. Bart Ehrman disagrees with Mythicists on everything except for whether or not Jesus was a physical person on earth. That's hyper specifically the only thing that he disagrees with Mythicists on. And of course, that leads to other conclusions that he comes to, but that's the source of the problem for Bart Ehrman, in my opinion. So I feel like this person just needs to go and actually read some critical scholarship as opposed to whatever her Sunday school teacher says, or pastor, priest, preacher, any kind of religious leader has pointed her towards. But it definitely seems like she just had never thought of Jesus not existing, and so she just typed it into the browser and it came up with Wikipedia, and then she's reading off Wikipedia. So it seems to be the extent of her knowledge.
The writings of the gospel were invented is insane, because that literary style didn't even exist during that time.
In 1700 years later.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to like harp on this guy down here that's literally adding nothing to the video that he's presenting, but he's literally not adding anything substantive to the video. He's literally repeating what the girl is saying in the video. It's just that he's saying it now. Like, you can't come up with your own thoughts. You got to repeat what other people say and then just act like you've got some kind of novel information there. Really? I mean, I don't know. As a content creator, I'm insulted. Not as like an atheist or anything, or a mythicist for that matter. I'm just insulted by a fucking content creator at the fucking low energy effort in repeating the words that somebody just fucking said.
Wow.
So, I mean, either way you go, it's pretty significant of a book not to be dismissed lightly.
Wow. That's a powerful point to make.
No, yeah, it's not dismissed lightly for sure, but also I don't think that was a powerful point. Like that was a very mundane point, and it's a very predictable point for a fundamentalist Christian. Like nothing that she said was like moving or anything or even intellectual. It was literally just reading words off of the screen instead of like an in-depth analysis of it. She just read fucking Wikipedia.
And that we can segue from that into the non-Christian historical references to Jesus. All right, I've got 5 here. I've got one from Tacitus. Okay, he's a Roman.
Okay, Tacitus does not prove Jesus existed. Tacitus, for those of you that haven't seen my content here on Godless Engineer around this topic, Tacitus doesn't repeat anything that's novel. He only repeats things that are known by Christians at that time. Tacitus was pen pals with Pliny the Younger over in the next province, and so he could have gotten his information from Pliny, but he could have also just gotten his information from anywhere through the grapevine of Christianity. So everything that Tacitus mentions could be easily derived from the existing Christian community in the 2nd century, because that's when he was writing. So that's for one. For two, there is a solid argument against a very Christianized version, or not version, but verse in Tacitus's work that seems to mention Pontius Pilate and Jesus being crucified and all of that other kind of stuff. There's a decent argument to be made that that's interpolated, but you don't need that argument in order to argue against Tacitus. Tacitus mentions Christus and Christians, for one thing. Tacitus was not a simple writer or a vulgar writer, as it was specified like in the ancient time period. Vulgar writers were simple writers. They were uneducated writers. They often misspelled things. Tacitus was not any of these. He was well educated. He's one of the best historians in history. So it's kind of odd if he meant Christians that he said Christians and Christus. So it's rather weird to claim that about Tacitus. But in any case, like I said, you don't need to argue again to argue the interpolation thing, because Tacitus was writing in the 2nd century and he had external sources that would have informed him about the Christians at that time. He's also one of the only people to affix the burning of Rome to Christians. Other historians that reported on the burning of Rome said that Nero blamed other groups for that and not the Christians. So it's kind of dubious as far as mentioning Christians as being the scapegoats. But regardless of all that, still it stands that he could have gotten his information from existing Christian sources that say that, Jesus was killed by Pontius Pilate, which would have been the Gospels or the Gospel narratives at least. And this isn't my conclusion. This is a conclusion that Robert Van Voorst came to, because he agreed with R.T. France, another New Testament scholar, that came to the conclusion that Tacitus isn't really reporting anything that we can solidly affix to an independent source. He doesn't discuss his sources or anything like that. So there's no way that Tacitus can actually give us any kind of usable information about Jesus, because we can't source his information. Take that, fucking historical Jesus. Yeah, that bitch. Thank you, honey. I come in here with an in-depth analysis from multiple different scholarly sources, but these fucking people and this shithead right here. Oh, my fucking camera died as I was pointing at the guy. Hold on one second, everybody. Oh, wait, there we go. Okay, came back. This fucking asshole right here just adds a fucking Joe Rogan yeah. That's crazy, yo. And then he hits play again. I come in here with an in-depth analysis of Tacitus as a source with multiple different New Testament scholars that are doing this shit. They get away with just being like, oh, it's simple. Just read Wikipedia, yo. It's so frustrating.
Historian, he confirms Jesus's execution under Pontius Pilate. We have Josephus, a Jewish historian. He describes Jesus as a wise teacher.
Josephus, gonna handle him real quick. The first mention is a malicious interpolation. Second reference to James, the brother of Jesus, is an accidental interpolation. The first one seems to have been written by a Christian similar to Eusebius. This is multiply, this conclusion has been substantiated by multiple different New Testament scholars, critical scholars at that. There's also been like a literary analysis done by Hopper. Can't remember his first name. His last name is Hopper. Not Dennis Hopper. That's an actor. Hopper. He has done a literary analysis showing that the words that are used in the original Testimonium Flavianum is different from how Josephus uses words and structures his stories and all that kind of stuff. Also, you can take out the entire paragraph, and both of the paragraphs before it and after it seem to flow seamlessly together. They fit nicely. It seems like the paragraph after the Testimonium references not the Testimonium, but the paragraph before the Testimonium. So like there's multiple different reasons to think that the entire thing is just inserted in. Not to mention the fact that the first time it was mentioned was by Eusebius himself. He's the first one. Eusebius was writing in the 3rd century, maybe 4th century. I can't remember right now. But he was writing so much later. And this particular passage, this glowing advertisement for how star-spangled fucking awesome Jesus is, isn't mentioned until fucking Eusebius, when two generations prior to Eusebius, you had Origen. Origen was busy refuting people that were arguing against Christianity. This would have been a perfect thing to mention, but Origen does not mention it. Why? There are so many questions.
Crucified under Pontius Pilate. We have Pliny the Younger, a Roman official in the 2nd century, who notes Christians worshiping Jesus as God in correspondence with Emperor Trajan. And last but not least, we have
Casey asked if she found a dildo. That would be kind of crazy. Like right there on air, like she brings out this 13-inch dildo. It's like, oh shit, yeah. Oh no, I didn't mean that bullshit. I meant this fucking thing that I'm gonna have fun with later. Sorry, I'm backtracking a little bit. I mean, I don't know. No? Okay. I'm backtracking a little bit.
We have Josephus, a Jewish historian. He describes Jesus as a wise teacher crucified under Pontius Pilate. We have Pliny the Younger, a Roman official in the 2nd century, who notes Christians worshiping Jesus as God in correspondence with Emperor Trajan. Right.
That doesn't mean that Jesus was a real historical person, just that Christians in the 2nd century, when Pliny was writing, they just worship Jesus. Like they worship the Christ specifically. They didn't say Jesus. That's another big aspect of it. They never mentioned Jesus by name. They just mentioned the Christ. They worshiped him as God. So like, it's very telling that they don't affix a name to this Christ. They just call him the Christ. And, but still that just mentions the practices of 2nd century Christians and not what actually happened in the 1st century. So I don't even know why he's bringing Pliny up. Like, it makes no sense. Yeah, that's right, honey. Pliny is a dumb fucking bitch.
And last but not least, we have the Babylonian Talmud, which talks about Jesus.
This is really funny to bring up because the Jesus in the Babylonian Talmud is actually right around 100 BCE, like between 80 and 100 BCE. And he existed under King Janaeus. He was killed in a different fashion. He was killed for a different reason. He had a different number of apostles or disciples, and it happened in a completely different place. So like it literally matches nothing about our Christianity's version of Jesus. It's this totally different version of Jesus, which does have some kind of Christian following later on. Like there's this whole separate sect of Christians that worship this King Janaeus Jesus rather than the Jesus that existed in the 1st century, supposedly. And so like it's this really weird situation where it definitely happened before, and then they pretended that it happened again. Who would have thought in an age where information was so hard to get and how facts were so hard to validate that they could just make shit up and people would believe it? There's no way that would happen, said the people that believe that the UFO crash landed in New Mexico and alien bodies were recovered. There's no way bullshit could be believed in the first fucking century, either BCE or CE. Fucking get a grip. That's right, honey. Yeah, you bitch.
I don't know why I keep saying that.
Hey, I'm just making sure to mention that I'm not the one that's like on the bitch tirade here.
Acknowledges Jesus' crucifixion, though critically in Sanhedrin 43a. And so these are just some of the extra biblical sources that refer to Jesus, and these are widely known and widely agreed upon.
Widely agreed upon. I have to disagree with that. I don't think they're widely agreed upon, especially considering how differently they paint Jesus. Like each one paints it different, and every scholar has a different interpretation of like what Tacitus means. I mean, I side with Robert Van Voorst, R.T. France, as well as many others about Tacitus. Josephus, I side with G.J. Goldberg, as well as the Hopper guy, and plenty of other people that disagree that the Testimonium Flavianum is genuine. And then the James reference in Josephus, which he didn't even mention, but the James reference is dubious in and of itself. The only one that's really advancing the interpolation and the skepticism around that is Richard Carrier, but so far nobody's been able to refute his argument for it. And his argument is rather solid as far as taking the James passage to be interpolated. So considering all of that, it seems like it's totally interpolated. The Talmud, no. Any of the other sources that he mentioned, I can't remember if he mentioned anything else that I haven't covered, but like none of it was actually convincing as far as like historical references to a real Jesus that existed. Did he just pull up the Wikipedia and just read off like the list of things and he just read from the list? Could that be what he did? I mean, I get it. This is a random question that comes up, but if you're going to produce some content, come up with good fucking answers. Like, if I'm going to say something, I make sure I have evidence to back my shit up. But it seems like they don't need that. They don't need to back their shit up.
In regards to the archaeological corroboration, there's really no direct artifacts from Jesus's existence, which is really actually typical for figures of his time. But discoveries like the Pontius Pilate stone, and Caiaphas's ossuary.
Well, Caiaphas's ossuary doesn't really say anything about whether or not Jesus existed. And the Pilate stone also similarly doesn't say anything about Jesus existing. It establishes those figures as existing, like the Caiaphas ossuary sure shows that there was a Caiaphas. That just means that people that wrote the Gospels knew that Caiaphas existed. I don't see how that benefits us with, knowing whether or not Jesus existed. And so like none of those things actually have any kind of bearing on whether or not Jesus existed, other than the people that wrote the story about Jesus made a believable story.
Supports the historical accuracy of the gospel.
No, it doesn't. Sorry to add in like a Joe Rogan, like, no, it doesn't. Ha ha ha. Play. But I mean, it just simply doesn't. Like that doesn't logically follow. And I would hope that people would understand how you need more substantive evidence in order to prove that Jesus was a historical figure. You can't just say Jim Bob existed, therefore Jesus existed. Like you can't say that. Like that just doesn't, that's a non sequitur.
Events.
That's good.
So if we look at a figure like Socrates, whose existence is undisputed.
It's not undisputed, one. Two, this has nothing to do with fucking Socrates. Three, if you're trying to talk about the historical method for establishing whether or not some historical person existed or whether some historical event took place, you're going to need to discuss the actual methods that are used to establish Socrates, not the idea that Socrates existed. Like, those are separate things, and what we're curious about are the methods used to establish that Socrates existed, which not everybody agrees with, by the way. You're just pulling shit out of your ass.
There's actually more historical documentation supporting the existence of Jesus than there is of Socrates.
Nope, that's not true either. There's way more historical information about Socrates than there is about Jesus, because there's no historical information about Jesus. And we do have some writings about Socrates that we assume are historical writings about Socrates, but we still have that hint of skepticism about it. So no, Jesus does not have the same kind of evidence as Socrates. Sorry to burst your fucking bubble, bitch. Thank you, honey. Sorry, she didn't say that. That was all me.
There's so much historical evidence and documentation of Jesus, and everything that we find just is like a collaboration with the Bible. There's nothing that we find within the Bible that debunk, or nothing that we find within historical events that debunk Jesus. Or
that's not true. So like the fact that the gospel narratives do not match, like, it, you know, their story about Jesus, the character of Jesus, or multiple different attributes about Jesus, that is definitely contradictory to what you're saying here. There's also numerous things about the stories that are told about Jesus, like the widow from Nain, where Jesus goes in to resurrect their son. There was never a gate there at the period of time in which Jesus supposedly resurrected the son. There was never a wall. There's so many different things that you could point out about the stories of Jesus that are obviously fabricated and meant to mimic stories from the Old Testament that it's just crazy for you to even fucking say the thing that you're saying right now. So no, there's actually no historical information that validates the Bible, specifically the Gospels. The only things that are historically verifiable are the things that Paul says, and Paul only ever indicates that Jesus was a celestial figure and not a historical figure. There's nothing in Paul that suggests that he was ever a historical figure.
the Bible.
One of the things that I really love personally is how many of the eyewitness testimonies included in the New Testament are of women, which is also so unprecedented at that time, that women would be considered reliable sources of history. In that era, women were not, able to testify in court as a reliable source.
No, that's not true. Josephus has women testifying in court and also proxies testifying on behalf of women. And the thing is that at that particular time, Jewish customs saw it as unseemly for women to appear in court because that was seen as a man's space. So it was really just cultural tradition that prevented women from being in court, but that didn't absolutely prevent women from being in court. Women still appeared in court. Women still had some kind of power. They could be granted power. They could own property. They could do all those things. So no, everything that she's saying is woefully misunderstood. And she's probably getting this from somebody like Gary Habermas or that fucking Wikipedia page that she's reading off of.
So the New Testament, I think, is so ahead of its time in so many.
It's literally not. The New Testament is remedial as fuck.
Ways. It's a brilliant piece of literature.
It's a shitty piece of literature, just saying.
You think about Jesus's teachings, you can't deny it's a brilliant piece of literature ahead of its.
I can totally deny that it's not a brilliant piece of literature. It's a shitty copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And no, I'm not impressed with it whatsoever. Am I impressed with how people were able to sell bullshit as truth? Yeah, sure. I'm impressed with how they can become the best car salesman for God that seem to exist. But that doesn't mean that the book was written good or well. Would it be well? Well, I corrected myself though. See, I knew it.
time with many, many complementary historical sources that verify a lot of the events that took place.
Yeah, totally. And also we can't ignore the transformative impact that Jesus has upon people, you know.
I mean, the idea of Jesus has a transformative impact on some people, but Jesus, the historical figure, had no transformative impact on anybody. Like, even Paul says that, like, the celestial Jesus had transformative impact on him, not that a historical Jesus was. And there are multiple messages in the New Testament itself, like the Gospels, that say that Jesus did not have a transformative impact. It was only until he resurrected from the dead that he had a transformative impact. The only gospel that has Jesus having a transformative impact is the Gospel of John that's written in the 2nd century. So no, Jesus did not have traditionally a transformative impact on anybody.
Like Christianity's rapid growth and the willingness of early followers of Jesus to die for what they say they saw in the resurrection of Jesus. You know,
there's no verifiable evidence that any of the quote unquote disciples of Jesus actually died for their belief, or that they were given the option to repent for their sins. The only cases of persecution that we have are from much later. So much later Christians that already wholly believed in the stories about Jesus, they were the ones being persecuted. And that doesn't get us anywhere near the truth. The original Christians that came up with the myth of Jesus were more than likely not persecuted. They were probably tolerated and they died perfectly fine. There's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that the suffering of somebody indicates whether or not they are reporting something true. Like, it doesn't exactly map to the truth of their claims. Just because somebody dies for a statement does not mean that they necessarily were telling the truth about reality. Sorry, one second. Okay, let's finish this up.
I mean, people aren't willing to die for something they know to be a lie. Yeah. So in conclusion, you know,
tell that to all of the suicide bombers in Islam. I'm just saying.
The existence of Jesus is just not really debated on, you know, anymore by scholars.
And there's the thought-stopping statement there. That's what they do. They try to get you to stop thinking about it. It's like, nah, don't think about whether or not he existed. You just gotta suck his dick, okay? Like, you don't have to worry about whether or not he really existed or what the evidence is that he did exist or anything. You just gotta suck his dick and you're fine. So just go ahead, pucker up and suck that dick. All right? Get that Cheeto dong right in your mouth, okay?
And, you know, contemporary scholars and teachers. Honestly, faith is really the key here in accepting Jesus as Messiah, but historical and archaeological evidence strongly supports his existence.
So you just have to believe, for one, just believe in Jesus. That's the key here. Just believe. But also you could fuck around and, you know, figure out some shit to validate it if you need that. But I mean, obviously faith is the main thing here. You just got to have faith. You just got to have faith. I like the Limp Bizkit version of that better than I do the original.
Amen. So anyone out there saying that Jesus wasn't even a real person, he never existed, shame on you. I'm joking. Kind of. But yeah, you have to have...
Shame on you? Like, I feel we're back at that fucking hockey game where the fucking people came over the big screen and they were like, shame, like in fucking Handmaid's Tale. Like, what the fuck? Shame on you? Shame on you for questioning the Christian line. Shame on you for needing historical evidence for your beliefs. Shame on you for needing real information or real evidence in order to justify your beliefs. Shame on you for thinking independently of the Bible. Go and fuck off, whoever in the hell you are.
Faith that Jesus is God.
And then he just fucking cuts off. Like, that's not even a, like, you don't even have an outro or anything. Like, you can't just be like, all right, guys, thank you so much for watching my Joe Rogan responses to some clip that I'm playing, you guys. It was really fucking crazy, right? All right, subscribe down below. Give me money and believe in Jesus. Gotta suck that dong. Thank you so much, and be sure to deep throat. Bye, y'all. You couldn't even do that? Like, you couldn't do a proper outro or anything? You just had to give another Joe Rogan sort of bullshit right there? All right, there, mini Joe Rogan. That's it for his video. Like, it was really the other people's video. What is that? Oh, the web was on. Anyways, all right, heathens, I appreciate you joining up today and watching, this response. Hope that you enjoyed it and the news and the fuck around and find out section. Let me know down below if you like the new concept of having Josephus do a fuck around and find out sort of thing, especially going through this next 4 years. I mean, I feel like there's going to be a lot of fucking around and finding out as far as the administration goes. So let me know down below if you like that. And, we're gonna jet on out of here. We got some Skeptic Mafia comments to read, but before you leave on out, I hope that you'll go down below and smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Also, don't forget to stand up and use your voice if you really want things to change in this fucking dystopian future that we seem to be living in. Do that. And I will see you heathens next week. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we do have the Skeptic Mafia to go through before I actually go and I play with my son for a little bit. He's really into Far Cry 6 for some fucking reason. I don't know. But we do have some comments to address on the Skeptic Mafia. There's only a few, so we'll get through these rather quickly. Oh. There we go. All right, so first up we have here from the Skeptic Mafia is Mark Fernkoff, who says GE was the deciding vote for the Mythicists video. Big surprise. Were you getting written within the lifetimes of the eyewitnesses? The author of Mark was writing in the 70s, the author of Matthew in the 80s, author of Luke in the 90s, and the author of John in the 2nd century. Back then, life expectancy was like 40 years, so that doesn't add up. 5 extra biblical sources for Jesus? What? Citation fucking needed. Josephus was writing in the 90s, later had Jesus inserted or interpolated into his work. That's clear for many reasons. Tacitus in the 2nd century just says, this is what this group of people believed. He is listing them. Pliny the Younger, talking about Christians in the 2nd century, is just talking about Christians and what was the 4th he said. I'm typing while listening, but he only listed 4, not 5. Yes, Pontius Pilate was a real person. So was John the Baptist. Oh, and Paul. Paul was definitely a real person. But aren't those like the only 3 people on the New Testament that we know were actually real people? Oh wait, Quirinius, governor of Syria, and King Herod were real people. Probably still going to be door dashing. Okay, to get back to door dashing, probably still going to be door dashing when the stream starts, but I can watch while I work. Candy is out tonight, so Dexter will have to wait until tomorrow. Oh, we got Dexter! Whew. I don't think that it's a Toast to Toast AM tonight. So what to watch after the stream tonight? Bill Maher, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, I love and worship the gorgeous Candy Black. And I guess that's it. Later, heathens. Thank you so much there, Mark. I appreciate you, bud. Can't wait to see you next week. Next is Mr. Hanchek 2, who's the dumping trash in the chat. Mr. Handcheck, Jonathan, says, thank you, Skeptic Mafia. I wasn't expecting to have to lose brain cells listening to nonsense tonight. You guys have proven me wrong again. And then a bunch of our emojis. Please remind Miss KC that we would love to hear her opinions when she has them, even if she doesn't feel like it's appropriate to have the mic. I'll let her know. And then we got Tomato Goes Zoom. Let's see. Don't have much to say except, that's exactly what they're doing, screaming their heads off. But if you don't want to scream your head off, definitely don't go to an Orchid concert or like and subscribe to GE. And remember, I will listen to KC. I will not ignore KC's recommendations. KC is God. And if this ever happens again, KC will personally rip your lungs out. Oh, shit. That got dark quick. Also, eat your fruits and veggies and drink some goddamn water. Tomato out. Thank you so much there, Tomato. Anyways, that's going to be it for me tonight. I hope that you guys appreciated it. I hope that you guys learned a little bit of something tonight. I know I didn't, other than Christians are still going to Christian. But anyways, if y'all will, please join me this Sunday on AXP, the Atheist Experience. If you don't know that I am a regular host over there on the Atheist Experience now, and this Sunday, which I know is Super Bowl Sunday, if you don't have anything to do, like watch the Super Bowl, please come by and give me a shout out in the chat. It would be great to see some people there shouting me out, letting people know that I'm actually noticed in the community. That would be great. Come on by, let me know. And I can't wait to see you guys there. Other than that, I'm going to be hitting it hard on content tomorrow so that I can have some content for y'all next week. I have some things in the work, but I also have plenty of clips to put out. So just stay tuned to the channel for that. Appreciate you guys again, and don't forget to go down below and let me know what you thought about tonight's stream in the comments. While you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content, this kind of live stream. And I guess I will see you heathens on Monday. Bye, y'all. Sorry, awkward silence for the end cards.